Hello, welcome to the Analyst at the Ashes with me, Simon Hughes.
And I'm Simon Mann.
Sunshine at the MCG, which we didn't have much of yesterday. We just had a high wind. But today, sunshine at the MCG and sunshine on England. They have won a Test match in Australia for the first time for 5,469 days. We were there on January the 7th, I think it was, in 2011, when they last won a Test match here, when they won 3-1 in the Ashes series under Andrew Strauss and Andy Flower. It's taken so long, hasn't it? This is the fourth tour, and Joe Root and Ben Stokes can celebrate an Ashes win in Australia for the first time in their careers, which is a lovely moment for them, actually.
Yeah, well, Joe Root can knock off two now, can't he? An Ashes 100 in Australia and an Ashes victory in Australia. I can still see the celebrations in my mind's eye in Sydney in 2011. I can still see them down on the ground doing the sprinkler dance, and I still remember Mitchell Johnson walking out to bat and Army doing, he bowls to the left, he bowls to the right, and then him being castled first. I can still see that 15 years ago, very nearly 15 years ago, and finally they've done it. I have to say, I didn't think it was going to happen today. This morning when I turned up, especially when Gus Atkinson limped off with a hamstring injury. I thought, they're going to be a bowler down, three pace bowlers. Stokes looked as though he was conserving his energy a bit. He wasn't really running in, and I rather feared for them. But they got the job done with the ball, and then they got the job done with the bat.
It was an extraordinary day. I mean, I think in many ways quite an unsatisfactory day of cricket, wasn't it? In fact, the 2 days, because it's just been cricket on speed. There were no real kind of plot lines, were there? As soon as a little kind of story developed, it was over and someone got out or someone played a mad shot or something. And there was no kind of real flow or rhythm to it. It was very staccato. I felt at times, I mean, we're in the Melbourne city, and as I mentioned on yesterday's podcast, we had the Barmy Army Christmas lunch at the Crown Casino in Melbourne, a big establishment, and it felt today a bit like we're in a casino throwing the dice or pulling the one-armed bandit to see what would come up. And occasionally the three fruits came up and the ball went for four, and other times you lost your money because you played a bit of a rash shot and got out. I mean, it was just a sort of, it felt like a lottery today. And England, okay, they got over the line, they won by 4 wickets, but I feel it was actually quite a lucky victory. They played well to get those runs, 175, but I felt at times, the ball fell in their court, didn't it? There were lucky balls that went over the top of slips and wide of slips and, fell into space. A couple of poor shots by the Aussies when they batted. It was almost like everything fell into place for England today.
I agree with that to some extent. I think you're going to have a bit of luck when you chase on this surface, because I think we'll talk a bit more about the surface, but I think on this surface, and the pressure as well, the situation, 175 to win. I must say, Michael Vaughan asked me on Test Match Special, just as England were about to set off, who do you think are favourites? I actually felt Australia were favourites because of what had happened previously in the series, what had happened in the first innings, what we'd seen in the first day and a half with all those wickets falling. You just thought, if they lost a couple of early wickets and the crowd noise, the pressure would just build. But once they got to 50, I thought they'd win, because they did exactly what Weatherald and Head did in that Test match in Perth, and it deflated Australia. You could almost see it in their body language. They're thinking, hold on a second, come out, take some early wickets, we're on the way. But when it didn't happen, very different story, and they break the back of it. And fair play to Ben Duckett to come out and play like that. Yeah, he had a bit of luck, but perhaps he deserved it today, the way England took it on. I thought they were excellent at that opening stand.
And Ben Stokes actually says that. We'll hear from him in a bit, actually, about what he thought was the sort of defining moment in that match and that run chase. I mean, you're right, though, about thinking that Australia were favourites when they were all out for 132, because Bethell agreed with that. At that moment, when England required 175 to win, on a pitch which was getting harder to bat on. I mean, I yesterday was quite strong about saying the batting was more blameworthy than the pitch, although the pitch was tricky. Today I thought the pitch was demanding because it speeded up a bit and it was a bit more bouncy as well, and one or two batsmen, Labuschagne for instance, got hit on the gloves a few times. Smith did a few sort of jerky reactions when he was facing, so there was a bit more extra bounce and pace today, as well as the movement. It did make it tougher. So Betfair had, when England went into bat 175 to win, 66 Australia, 34 England. and by sort of 50 for none, it had switched round. Yeah. So it was now Australia 38 and England 63.
Yeah.
So that shows how critical that 50-run partnership was. At the start, it didn't look too convincing, did it? Duckett had a big swish or two. He attempted a ramp which didn't come off. Then he did one which did come off. And Crowley, I thought, was a sort of calming influence, actually, at the other end. He hit one fantastic straight drive for 6 over the top off Nisa. But otherwise, actually, he played quite a sort of, not cautious game, but a kind of controlled game, and allowed Duckett to sort of free his arms the other end and got away with a few. And that got England to 50, and it was a critical kind of initiative, that really.
Yeah.
Gave probably the other England batsmen a bit more confidence and deflated the Australians.
Yeah, definitely. And you think back to Perth, Weatherald and Head put on 77 and they were chasing 205. So it was a similar type of opening stand and left a similar type of run chase for the other batters. And it was a run chase as well, really, because there was no point. I think this is where England got their tactics absolutely right, and they went at it, because if you just tried to sit in on that pitch, then I think eventually you would nick one, or one would nip back and pin you LBW. So they took the initiative and they forced the field back. So then there were some gaps as well, which helped enormously. So you could actually then take some singles and knock it around a bit. I agree. England had a little bit of luck, but I think everyone needed a bit of luck. I actually thought Australia, generally in this Test match, batted really poorly. And if there's any blame attached, I think it's more to, and well, they've lost the game, but I thought it was more to the way Australia batted than the way England batted. I said to you yesterday that I thought England were more bowled out than Australia. I thought Australia gifted their wickets more in the first innings and in the second innings today. I mean, for example, after lunch, when it was kind of game on suddenly, 6 down at lunchtime, Smith was still there and Green was there. Of course, Boland had opened, so although they were 6 down, they were kind of effectively 5 down. I thought Green played a really poor shot to kind of open the way for England to go through the lower order, sort of fencing outside the off stump and nicked it to slip. I could understand sort of what they were trying to do. They were trying to be busy and keep the scoreboard ticking. They were sort of moving down the pitch, dabbing the board, picking up the singles, and it worked for a bit. But I think Green ended up playing a ball that he probably could have left. But I don't know, was it a bit of a lottery, that pitch? And
a bit of a lottery, it was.
Yeah. So it's all very well saying you play poor shots, but sometimes you end up playing poor shots because you feel you need to be on the aggressive side of things.
Yeah.
So, but as it turned out, a lot of those Australian wickets were some indifferent shots. I mean, Khawaja, a no-look pull off tongue down towards fine leg, for example.
I'd say 2 things, though. That England made one critical change, which I thought was very important. Carse, who, as Stokes is constantly back to open the bowling, but he's tended to bowl round the wicket to left-handers. And this is a sort of technical point. When you swing the ball into left-handers and away from right-handers, which Carse does naturally, it's much harder to bowl to a left-hander from round the wicket, because you've either got to start it very wide outside off. And I made this point actually in Adelaide. If you start it wide outside off stump, it gives the left-hander natural width. And then you try and go straighter and it swings down the leg side and they can work your way off your legs. So it's much better for a right-arm bowler who's swinging it in to the left-handers to start over the wicket. And I've kept saying that, and today Carse did. And in his second spell, he bowled a brilliant ball to Travis Head, who was looking good, made 46, the highest score of the match. And
that's incredible, isn't it?
It is amazing to say that. Yeah. So you've got a stat, haven't you, about the first Test match for about 2,000 years which hasn't had a 50 in it.
It's only the 5th time since 1935 that there's not been a 50 in a Test match.
Yeah,
happened in 1981 Ashes at Trent Bridge, right? A game that Australia won. There were was that no spin? I'm getting a bit confused. But anyway, the point being, it doesn't happen very often that you don't get a 50 in a Test.
So anyway,
match.
Travis Head was on 46 and Carse bowled, and he found a fuller length today as well. I think he learnt from watching Josh Tongue in the first innings, and he bowled a fuller length, and it was the wobble seam, cross seam delivery, which Head was expecting it to move in, and it just kept straight and trimmed the bails off stump. Lovely delivery. And then he got Carey as well. So the two kind of most dangerous Australian batsmen really, who can do a lot of damage quite quickly. Carse dismissed, from over the wicket, and that was a really important moment or two.
Yeah, I thought Carey was another poor shot.
It was.
Because he was looking to kind of run it, didn't he? He hung his bat out, looking to run it down to deep third, and then he nicked it as well. So there's a catalogue of poor dismissals from Australia. You can go back to their first thing, I suppose the ultimate one in a way was Green running himself out. So he, 2 poor dismissals from him in the match.
And 132 all out.
Yeah.
I mean, extraordinary. Carse in the end, 4 wickets. Tongue got 2, Stokes got 3, and of course they did that without Atkinson, who limped off. It was a weird moment, wasn't it? He ran into bowl the last ball of his 4th over or something, and it suddenly stopped. He halfway through his run, but still carried on and bowled the ball. And it was a sort of loop. It was about
probably 61 miles an hour.
It was about the speed I bowled.
It was 61 miles an hour.
Even slightly quicker.
Still a bit quicker than you.
Yeah,
but,
still a bit quicker than me.
Yeah.
And it just looped out. And Travis Head hit it for a couple of runs, and then Atkinson walked off.
Well, he nearly got a wicket from it, bizarrely, because Head's eyes lit up, and he went to just kind of like slog it. Really, thought, here's something, and he nearly miscued it to mid-off, and just got it over Stokes' head. I was on with Glenn at the time, and Glenn said, "Why has he bowled a slower ball there?" I was kind of realised what happened. He kind of was injured as he was delivering it, and then he walked off, and you thought, that's not looking good. If Australia dig in here and wear down England's 3 pace balls. That's why I thought some of the middle lower order batting was quite poor, because you think if you can just extend it and make them bowl more overs than they want to, surely they're going to get tired, and then the runs are going to come.
And also they would have to go to. They were talking on radio. Who would they go to next? The 4th seam was going to be Harry Brook.
Yeah. Well,
so that was a good incentive for Australia just to stay in.
Yeah.
But no batter in this game seems to want to stay in for long, apart from Steve Smith and maybe Joe Root.
Yeah, and you're kind of back to Lords, aren't you, in the last Ashes series where Nathan Lyon limped off, and you thought, well, if you can just wear down the quick bowlers, they're going to get tighter and tighter, and you're going to be able to profit from that. And of course, England were out playing all sorts of shots and hooking, so kind of a similar thing happened today. So whether Australia, I don't know if you've won the Ashes. Look, you're playing in front of a massive crowd, aren't you? So you feel you should be up for it. But whether it just does take the edge off it slightly when you've won 3-0, you're 3-0 up. That's what you come to do: win the Ashes. They won the Ashes in Adelaide, and a relatively quick turnaround to here to the Boxing Day Test match, and suddenly you're into the battle again. And if you're not quite on it at Test level, especially on a pitch like that, then perhaps this is what happens. I mean, they'll say no, it was nothing to do with that. But I think there's something about being up in a series and then not quite being on it for a game that is not quite as important, doesn't matter quite as much, even though it's World Test Championship points and it's still the Ashes and it's
and they wanted to win it 5-0, didn't they?
Yeah.
They wanted to finish the series 5-0. Yeah. So 132 to win for England, and actually that last wicket was a bit of a waste.
175.
Sorry, 175, 132 all out Australia, 175 to win. That last wicket, the way Jai Richardson just sort of slogged it up in the air with Steve Smith not out 20 odd at the other end, that was a bit of a waste, and actually that would have given England a bit of confidence. There was a few wasteful wickets, as you said, and England managed in that just over one session to get the runs. Let's hear from Ben Stokes before we go to our break, actually, because he was thoughtful and obviously elated about the way England have managed to finally win a Test match in Australia. Very satisfied from his own point of view. He didn't actually manage to hit the winning runs himself, which I thought he might have done. He just got out with 10 to win. But he was very proud, particularly, of that opening stand of Ben Duckett and Zach Crowley, and also the performance of Jacob Bethell as well.
I think the best possible way of being successful around there was to be very proactive against a very, very good bowling attack who are relentless in their line and length. On a wicket like that, you can't allow bowlers to be able to just run up and put the ball where they want to without putting them under some kind of pressure. And you've seen when Zach and Ben start building a partnership, the field started to go back and then were able to rotate. I think as well, Zach identified that moment and then sort of played slightly different. It wasn't just the boundaries that were allowing us to tick that total down, it was the ones and twos and the running between the wickets. I was very pleased with the way that we went about that and how brave we were and committed to a style of play that we knew was the best chance of us chasing that down. Obviously, Beth's been a part of the England setup now for a couple of years, and there's obviously been a lot spoken about his track record before progressing into the international scene, and it is understandable, but we know the quality that Jacob Bethell possesses. He's very young, and he's got a long time, ahead of him at the highest level, whether that be at international level or franchise level, whatever it may be. So, I think it was a very calm and measured approach on such a inexperienced player. So it would have been. I'm sure he would have loved to be able to walk off there, not out. But gosh, he's pretty unlucky to smoke him straight to cover there in that situation. But yeah, it was very impressive watching him construct that in the way that he did.
Just related to Bethell, really. What impressed you about his innings, and would that have been his own decision to ramp the first ball after tee, or was there a sort of discussion about that?
Well, I definitely didn't tell him to do it because I can't play that shot. So, no, I think when obviously Alex Carey's been phenomenal behind the stumps for Australia, and then you have to find a different mode of scoring when the keeper does come up to the stumps. When he's back, that's when we look to get down the wicket and maybe stand outside of our crease. Then when he comes up, you feel like there's a few more dismissals in play. So again, Scott Boland is phenomenally accurate in what he does. He operates in a way that's very, very consistent. So in terms of that decision to be able to do that straight after a break, I think it showed bravery, and a courageous way of taking it on, and we needed to be brave and courageous in chasing this run tally down on that type of wicket. So he obviously played that reverse and then makes the bowler sort of sit back a bit, and then he gets a half volley next ball and crunches it through the cover.
Well, I suppose you're saying in a way that it's important to be brave, but also to be smart about it, to be strategic, which I guess that was.
Yeah, definitely. I think you don't underestimate the impact that a certain shot or a certain intent does do to a bowler, and how that affects them when they run up and bowl their next ball. You got a ball that Scott Boland doesn't bowl too often. So look, you've got to be brave and courageous in the way that you play the game, especially on a wicket like that.
So yours, I haven't heard your view yet on whether you thought England would win when they set out to chase 175. I thought favourites Australia. Betfair thought that as well. What did you think?
I thought that England would win because I felt the pitch was difficult for the first 10 overs, but if they could get through that, they had enough batting to get 175 runs. And in fact, I did say that yesterday. I said at the end of our podcast, if England bowl well and get Australia out cheaply, which they did, they've got a chance. But it was all relying on the openers. And Zach Crowley and Ben Duckett, I was very nervous for Duckett because I thought he was looking all at sea in previous innings. And today, in fact, early on, he clipped away a boundary to start with, which was lucky. Got a nice ball from Stark on his pads and he flicked it for 4.
That was a bit of a Christmas gift, that, wasn't it?
It definitely was. After that, he had a big swish or two outside off. He ran up the wicket. He was a bit kind of kamikaze, but he sort of got away with it and then got a couple of good shots away. And Zach Crowley at the other end would have given him some confidence. What was good about their partnership actually was there was some good running between the wickets as well. So particularly Crowley, after a couple of booming drives, he just dropped it and ran. And the great thing about that approach is that if you hit a big shot over the top for 6 and maybe another good drive, that immediately makes the fielding side go on the defensive. They start putting men back on the boundary and then cleverly drop a single and run. And that goes back to what I said about being more smart about the way you bat. If you hit a boundary and you've pushed the field back, play a single. It's infuriating for the bowler. It rotates the strike, means they've got to bowl right-handed and left-handers, and their union worked really nicely together with posing the bowlers different challenges.
Yeah, so they put on 50, and then the wicket, Stark castling Ben Duckett. I mean, in a way, he hadn't totally done his job, but he'd done enough of his job, hadn't he, to get England on their way. And then we thought, who's this coming out?
Yeah.
At number 3. Oh, hold on, is it? Who is it? Is it Jacks? No, it's Brydon Carse. So effectively sent in as a pinch hitter. Look, we've seen pinch hitters in white ball cricket over the years, haven't we? Actually, Shane Warne's been featured a lot in this game because the spectators have been doffing their caps in homage to Shane Warne. And there's actually downstairs you can get a health check There's loads of monitors.
And how is your health?
I've got a few things to look at, apparently, according to my
Particularly
health.
because it's working with me, isn't it?
Well, probably, yeah. And that kind of drives the blood pressure up a little bit, probably. So I got a few things to work on. But that's part of this test match as well. You can, lots of people, there's big machines downstairs, and you can get your health checked, and it gives you advice. So anyway, Shane Warne was, an element of this the test match, and I remember him pinch hitting in a World Cup quarter-final in Chennai against New Zealand. He bumped up the order and just came in and slogged 20 on it, but it just got Australia going, and that was the idea today. I mean, they did it in the test match, and I mean, it sort of worked for a little bit, and then I thought he's got the field back here. Just push one, and then the opposition have to change their tactics. But Brydon Carse, he doesn't seem to be able to help himself, does he? He has to. He was told to go out there and pinch it and get a quick 20 or 30, and he was determined to do it. But I thought once the field was back, he could just nudge and push, and then what do Australia do? They're going to, hold on, they're just scoring easily. Run a ball, ticking the board over. They have to bring the field in, and they bring the field in. Then he can go over the top, possibly. Anyway, so I didn't think that was the cleverest bit of cricket of the day.
But, I mean, interestingly, Stokes said afterwards that one of the reasons for sending Carse in was good natural hitter of a ball, could hit the bowlers off their length, but also it could just take up a bit of time and get the ball a bit softer, and that they were well aware the hard ball was very hard to deal with, but when it was a bit softer it might be a bit easier. So although he only got 6 runs, I think he was in for 12 balls or something, probably about 5 overs, and that ball did get a little bit softer, which made Jacob Bethell's task just a tiny bit easier. Not to say it was easy, it was very tough. He came in with the score on 60 or something.
Well, look, Duckett was out 51 for 1 after 7, and Carse was out in the 10th over at 65, so they added 14 in 3 overs.
Yeah.
So he was still under pressure when he came in, 65 for 2, still 110 to win. If he'd gone then you thought, well, what's happening here to England, Australia still in the game. I thought he played, there were a few outrageous shots, but I thought he played with great immaturity and some quality as well. There's some quality.
Sorry, you said
straight.
mature. You almost said immaturity.
No, maturity.
Yes.
He played with a lot of maturity. I thought he looked a player that wasn't playing his debut Ashes Test match, because I kind of slightly feared for him yesterday when he came out. Huge crowd under pressure, the roar of the crowd when the wickets were falling, when the first wicket fell, and of course he was out early. So he thought it's a big task for him, but he coped admirably.
He did. I mean, he looks to the manner born. He comes out and he just looks calm. He looks as if he's playing for his club or for Warwickshire or something. Not that he plays for Warwickshire very much, but he looked completely at ease. And I think that's one thing you can pick up on with somebody like that. Whereas Ollie Pope, the man he's replaced, does look a bit fidgety and edgy at the crease. Bethell looks calm, and even when he plays and misses, you wouldn't know it. You look at his demeanour, he strolls away from the crease, he pats down a bit of ground, comes back in, faces the next one. And a couple of times, what I really liked about his innings actually was, when Carey, the wicketkeeper, was back, standing back to the quicker bowlers like Scott Boland, he came down the wicket and tried to get to the pitch of the ball and hit one absolutely regal sort of off drive just past the bowl, a beautiful shot on the up, I think slightly to the onside, beautiful shot, lovely timing. And then Carey came up to the stumps, and then he played that just after tea. He played that amazing ramp shot. First ball after tea. The keeper's now come up to the stumps, so he knows he can't go down the wicket. So instead, he goes with, it's outrageous, really. Outrageous sort of confidence, courage, bravery, madness, whatever you want to call it. Gets down low and ramps the ball over the keeper's head for a couple of runs. And the next ball after that, just to show the influence that has, Scott Boland bowled that rare thing, a half volley, he drove it for 4. Yeah. And it just shows the impact that kind of ingenuity can have on a bowler, even as relentless as Scott Boland. It just puts you off slightly. But, the good thing is it wasn't reckless. His batting it had a mixture of amazing shots, classic shots, and lovely little dabs for 1s and 2s as well, because he plays the ball late and he can knock it into space. So as soon as he pushed the field back, he was able to rotate the strike, and he and Root, got the scoreboard going again, and it was just absolutely lovely to watch.
How many Test hundreds is he going to end up with?
Well, that's a great question. he should end up with at least 10, I would say. It depends how long he plays. It depends, who knows what Test cricket is going to be like in 5 years' time, how many Test matches there are. But I think, was this a Test match, by the way, or was it a T20? I mean, it only lasted, about 100 overs.
142 overs.
142 overs. So it was a tiny bit longer than the Perth Test, which was
so these
a
were
two-day game.
The second and third shortest Test matches in Australia. The one in here and the one in Perth.
Yeah. So 142 overs, that's less than... So a day is supposed to be 90 overs.
Yeah.
So it's basically just over 1.5 days, 1 2/3 days. It's amazing, isn't it?
In terms of overs, and it ended about 5:30, so well into the evening session. It ended around about the scheduled close of play on the second day.
Sadly, Bethell didn't stay in to see the team home. He was out with, about 20 or 30, 28 to win, 38 to win, I think it was.
So 137 for 4
yeah, so it was 38 to win when he was out. Another good shot, well caught at short extra cover. I suppose when you're playing that kind of quite expansive game, you are going to have the odd one which goes to hand, which that did. Then I thought this was going to have the perfect scenario. You're going to get Root and Stokes, the two men who've been here forever and not won an Ashes Test match, being in together, and they were both out.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be Stokes flashes it through the covers for 4 and England have won the match.
Which, of course, is at the beginning of our podcast.
Yeah, but it wasn't, because he went for a big drive and nicked it to slip.
And you weren't probably on air anyway.
When that happened, no, I wasn't, no.
So he nicked it to slip, and that was a sad end, actually, because he put so much into England's cause and the heartache they've suffered, both on the field and more recently off it as well. It must have been, it gets to you, doesn't it? It makes you exasperated. And Stokes, a couple of times I saw him when he was bowling and he got an edge and the ball went through between second slip and gully in the air for 4. And he was like pulling his hair out, and he needs to be careful actually, because that hair might come out accidentally.
What are you trying to say, Yoz?
I just thought he was almost, had he got any more to give? And yet, if he could have hit the winning runs, that would have been an amazing moment. But then again, he's experienced being on the field when winning a World Cup, and obviously that amazing innings at Headingley as well. So perhaps it was somebody else's turn to hit the winning runs, and it was Harry Brook.
Yeah. And he's won a Test match as a captain in Australia, which is something an England captain hasn't done for a very long time, not since Andrew Strauss did it. So
the nice thing about that, of course, is that our Barmy Army 12 Days of Christmas song finished with and My True Love Gave to Me a Stokes-led victory. And they sang that 12 times in the casino, and it came true.
Yeah, well, I have to say, I very seriously doubted it last night. I thought Australia kind of had the game. Not decisively, they were 46 ahead with 10 wickets left, but I thought they would go on and press on and make it difficult for England. But it's a mad game, isn't it? Well, this was a mad game. It was a bonkers Boxing Day Test match. And England, it came up with something special there. They played really well. They bowled well. They caught well as well. I think that was a key today. And they broke the bat. I suppose one thing it would be nice if they'd won by 7 wickets or something like that. Do you know what I mean? 8 wickets, 7 wickets, a real sort of emphatic victory. It's 4 wickets. Look, it all counts. 1 wicket, 1 run, you win the game, don't you? But it's nice to win emphatically. But I didn't think there was that much doubt about them winning the game once they got within 80 or 90. Thought perhaps a few fewer than that. I thought they were going to win the game, and they ended up winning it reasonably comfortably. It was a few fidgety moments at the end. Look, so I'll bet for exchange. Let's talk about the pitch again. We talked about it last night. You defended the pitch a lot. You said it was all about the batting errors. Lots of former players, chief executive, and current players. I mean, Root was asked about it, Stokes was asked about it, Smith was asked about it, and they all, they can't come out and say, look, it was a shocker or whatever, but they were all strongly implied that really it was too far in the bowler's favour. Like some pitches are totally in the batter's favour, and we go absolutely, we say this is boring, what's the point of playing on a pitch like that, it's too flat, whatever. Surely this pitch just had too much in it for the bowlers, didn't it? 36 wickets fell in 142 overs. Are you going to change what you said last night?
Well, I'm not going to change what I said last night. I thought yesterday the batting was appalling generally, and I thought the pitch was helpful but not impossible. Today, actually, I thought it was much trickier, certainly at the start, because it had quickened up and there was more bounce, and the bounce was a little bit uneven as well as the sideways movement. So it was a tough pitch today. I would like to see how it would have played, but days 3, 4 and 5, with the ball got softer. We never found how it would behave with the ball getting softer, because the innings never lasted very long. So we never saw in innings when the ball was 60, 70 overs old. There was no such thing as waiting for the second new ball or anything.
Do you think if we started the game tomorrow morning, had 3 days left, we'd get a result?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we could play another game on there and probably have another 2-day test, because batters are not prepared to wait and bide their time and apply themselves and leave the ball. They just can't do it anymore. I spoke to the match referee tonight, Jeff Crow. Lovely guy, lovely man, former New Zealand player and brother of Martin Crow. And he said, "Oh God, I've got to write a pitch report about that." I said, "Well, I think that the batting was poor." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "We used to leave the ball. We used to play with soft hands and all that." It's hard to defend a pitch when the highest individual score is 46, but that is as much to do with poor batting technique and batsmen just sort of throwing in the towel almost when they see the ball behave trickily. But Steve Smith said in his press conference, yeah, it was a tricky pitch, and we have lots of tricky pitches out here now. It's not the straightforward place to bat that it used to be. But these questions of batsmen are a good thing, because it asks different questions of them, and some people can't come up with a response and some people can. Today Bethell played a perfectly good innings. He got out playing an attacking shot. Who knows, if he'd stayed and kept knocking singles and played the odd aggressive shot, he might have got 50 or 60 or even more. Who knows? Anyway, but what I do think is that it worked very badly for Cricket Australia.
Yeah, massively so.
Because
they're going to lose millions.
They are going to lose. I've heard one rumour of 25 million Australian dollars,
which is about £12.5 million.
Yeah, which has got to be paid back to the people who booked for tomorrow. 90,000 was expected tomorrow, and also the broadcasters who are now denied 2-3 more days of coverage. So obviously disastrous from that point of view. I mean, I did hear that somebody I know had spoken to the groundsman, and what he was trying to do was ensure the pitch for not breaking up too early, because the rumours were that it was going to be quite warm the first 2 days of the game and then hot for the last 3. So he didn't want the pitch to break up too soon. So he left a bit of extra grass on it. This is when it was being grown and then dumped into the tray here and set up. He left a bit of extra. It was a drop-in pitch.
Yeah.
He left a bit of extra grass on because he thought it was going to be warmer than it actually was. And in the event, the first sort of 3 or 4 days last week were cooler than he expected, and so it didn't kind of quite harden up or dry out as much as he was expecting. So you said yesterday, pitch preparation is not an exact science. He did get the balance a bit wrong today. There was too much grass on it. For an even contest between bat and ball, it was a little bit too skewed in favour of the bowlers, but also that's partly due to batsmen's inadequacies when the ball is moving.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's bad for spectators. It's bad for the cricket board here, for Cricket Australia. When the game loses so much money, then it can't be good, can it? I mean, they rely on an India tour and an England tour to make their money, to tide them over the good years. I've heard one wag say this is England's long-term plan to completely destroy Australian cricket, kind of bankrupt them by either losing quickly or winning quickly. Look, it's tough.
We need them, don't we? I mean, we need Australian cricket desperately, don't we? It's still the biggest contest in cricket. I mean, India-Pakistan hardly ever happens anymore.
Yeah.
So this is the biggest rivalry in cricket, and we need it to be sustained. And we won't get thousands and thousands of people coming back next time if they know that the pitches are going to be a bit dodgy and the games are only going to last 3 days.
Well, there's a risk. There's a risk of that, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, we're on air. We have emails from people and WhatsApp messages from people saying, I'm flying in for the third day. I want England to win, but I'm flying in for the third day. You know, it's tough, isn't it? People do commit a lot of time. Look, I know with cricket you cannot predict it. So you have a 5-day test match. You know, it can be over in 40 balls, can't it? Or it can last a full 5 days, as we had last summer. But if you make a pitch, I think this is the point I was trying to make yesterday. That for the occasion, that if you can possibly you need to make a pitch that is a bit more batter friendly than this one. In Adelaide, they got it absolutely right, didn't they? Excellent test match that finished on the 5th day with England battling away, bowled out for 350 in their second innings. You know, it's tough. You know, we live in a world where everyone's criticised for everything, and sometimes you don't even criticise for doing the right thing. I bet he's thinking, oh dear, you know, I've not got this right. You know, he'll be feeling a disappointed man tonight, inevitably, won't he? Because look, most ex-players, current players have given their verdict, albeit sometimes a bit veiled, about the surface. So
and
tough
actually,
one to take.
Ben Stokes asked what he would say about the pitch. Said, "Well, not good."
Yeah,
it was his.
Well, he also
sort of straightforward.
He also said, "Look, 36 wickets have fallen in 142 overs. You know, that tells you something." So you know it's clear what England think about. And of course, if you win the game, then you can say something about the pitch, can't you? There have been captains in the past who've lost games, and they might have said something about the pitch, and people are, "Oh, well, you're just moaning because you lost the game." If you win it, you're in a position of strength. England have won in Australia for the first time in nearly 15 years. So that is an achievement, isn't it? You could say, well, people say it doesn't really matter because they've lost the series. I think it does matter because it's not going to be 5-0. But it is a consolation victory.
Yeah.
What sort of context would you give it?
Well, I think they need to back it up with another good performance, because I think this was a little bit freaky, this one, really. I mean, in a way, the pitch kind of rendered both teams equal, and it was who had the luckiest breaks, perhaps, and who was the bravest as well, who got over the line in the end. I mean, obviously, if you think back to 2002, Michael Vaughan, when he came out here with an England team under Nasser Hussain, and they were playing that brilliant Australian team of the 1990s and 2000s, and they lost the first 3 tests, and it was a disaster. But then they did win in Sydney, and that gave them confidence. Although the series had gone and the Ashes had gone, they won in Sydney. They realised if they built up pressure on Australia, even that top side could capitulate, and they won. And that gave them enormous confidence to then come to 2005 and eventually win the Ashes back after 18 years. So it is a turning point, but they need to sort of follow it up. And it's a turning point despite lots of the mistakes that they've made in the first 3 tests, and mistakes that they're still making at times. So, you know, I don't think they want to get too overboard about it, really. But it is at least it stops the rot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're going to be celebrating tonight, and probably no one's going to question their celebrating tonight. Isn't it another week now? Another week till the next Test match.
What are you going to do then?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it yet. But you know, there's a lot of talk about this Ashes series these days being very intense. You know, back to back games. But actually, there've been quite big gaps.
Yeah, massive
between.
It's a bit like an old tour, isn't it?
Indeed, yeah. Normally they would fit in a tour match. Look, and there was talk, and there was kind of rumours going around that there was going to be a local businessman had put up $1 million for a winner takes all match tomorrow at the ground for those spectators.
He wasn't called Alan Stanford, was he?
Well, yeah, I mean, because that did happen, didn't it? The $1 million match. That's kind of never going to happen, was it? It's very hard to get they're so focused on playing a Test match. You're not going to get players to turn out for an exhibition game. Not these days. They did in 1971, of course, when the Test match was rain ruined, and that was the first ever one-day international. And quite a few people turned up, didn't they? It wasn't full by any means, and
they all left when Boycott and Edrich put on 8 off the first 8 overs, and it was 8 ball overs, of course. Then, and actually, I've often thought how tough it must have been to come to Australia when it was 8 ball overs, which they had until the late 1970s. An over was 8 balls here. Yeah. So imagine if you bowled an 8 ball over and then you bowled a couple of no balls, that's 10 balls. Yeah. You bowl four overs of that, or 4 8 ball overs, is quite tough, especially if it's hot. So that made it even more challenging to come to Australia. At least now it's 6 ball overs unless you overstep the line. Anyway, I suppose overall England will be ecstatic, and they can at least celebrate something tonight for the first time in Australia for 14 years.
Yeah, well, close on 15, isn't it?
Yeah.
Close on 15 years. What you started off with that stat about 5,000 days or something like that.
5,469.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, there'll be a lot of people hoping it doesn't take another 5,000 days to win another Test match here.
It's changed the narrative, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Yeah, definitely. And if they do back it up in Sydney, then I don't know. Do you then start to think, well, what if only that had happened there, if only that had happened here? But you've got to go with it, and it is significant, but potentially for those in the hierarchy as well. You think of the coach, the director of cricket, but they did admit there had been mistakes with the preparation, but the sport ultimately, top level, is about one thing, isn't it? It's about winning.
Yeah.
And they've won, so you cannot take that away from them.
And I think the feeling in the press, in the English press, is that McCullum still needs another win to keep his job, actually, because otherwise, if they lose the last Test, this will seem like a bit of a sort of an anomaly, if you like.
Yeah.
And for taking into account all the mistakes that have been made, he might lose his job. I hope he doesn't, actually, because I like his attitude to the game and his spirit and his knowledge and the way he's tried to encourage a different way of playing. But he relies on the players to deliver that, and they haven't been able to consistently for a number of different reasons.
I wonder what the curator at the Sydney Cricket Ground is thinking tonight. I wonder if he's had any phone calls from Cricket Australia, because it's Glenn's pink ball. Well, it's not his Test match, but there's Pink Shirt Day is the third day. Of course, if that had been here, we wouldn't have got to it. So obviously that's a big day for him and his charity as well. So I think the curator, I wonder if he's being lent on as we speak. What have you got for that pitch for us? He said leave a bit of grass on it because England like to play a bit of baseball. Well, perhaps just shave it down a little bit.
But they haven't got Nathan Lyon either, so they can't make it a traditional Sydney spinning pitch. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, listen, one thing we won't be doing tomorrow, actually, I think, is going to St Kilda Beach, because that's where all the Barmy Army people and about 90,000 people who booked in here and various other holidaymakers, they're going to be heading there tomorrow with this day off, and also
it's going to be hot as well, isn't it, tomorrow? Warm anyway.
We won't do that. What we might do is do another podcast at some point in the next couple of days, receiving more of your comments and questions. They've been coming in fast and thick in the last few days. Well, fast and intelligent, in fact, over the last few days.
Does this win make any difference? There might be one question that people
should
want
McCullum still lose his job, etc.
Yeah. What do you think about that? The next Test match starts late on the 3rd of January. It's the 4th of January here, and where can people follow it?
On TNT Sports, 11:30 p.m. start, late at night, and you can get to TNT, of course, by going to EE or Sky or Virgin Media. Also, you can stream it on Discovery Plus. Of course, you must be at least 18, and you do need a subscription, and terms and conditions apply. And I'm sure the TNT executives will be relieved about this match coming to an England victory, but also annoyed because they're missing 3 days of coverage.
Yeah, and that's the point. I think all broadcasters and spectators and cricket lovers as well, I think it's that. It's great for England to win here. A win is absolutely better than nothing. But I suppose in an ideal world, a win halfway through the 5th day with huge crowds here at the MCG for nearly 5 days would have been the ultimate. But as we know in life, Loz, you can't have everything.
Anyway, we'll leave you with the winning moment when England finally got over the line here in Australia in an Ashes Test match for the first time since 2011. This is the winning moment when Harry Brook whittled it down to fine leg, and England won the match by 4 wickets. And don't forget to send us your comments and questions, and we'll answer them over the next couple of days on our next podcast.
Thanks for your company. Goodbye for now.